Hi, my name is Gisèle Grenier. I'm a professional artist specializing in portrait work of people, pets, and wildlife. In my fun time, though, I like to work with mixed media and art journaling. In today's workshop, I'm going to be demonstrating the essentials of drawing with colored pencil. On my table, I have a few sample drawings done, and these are the ones we're going to complete in this workshop. The raccoon, this is what was done in the written lesson because there's a lot more time available. And this is the one that we're going to be doing in the video lesson. With colored pencil, because of the amount of detail required, it does take a little bit of time to get your layers done. I'm going to demonstrate that as well. And you'll develop your own style, whereas with the raccoon, it took a total of about 4 hours to do this one. And this one here, much lighter colors here, and this one took, I think, about 35 minutes. I'm not quite sure, but that's just to show you the differences. And then we have Bonbon, which is a hyper close-up of a little dog. So I'd like to go over the supplies, and there's a very convenient kit that's available from Royal and Langnickel. You just pop it open. It's got a little handy strap and everything. And in here you will have a beginner set, which will give you a good opportunity to practice with the pencils. You will need some drawing paper, and I highly suggest that you pick up a sketchbook or an art journal to practice your strokes and some techniques. So you have a range of pencils here, and the color that we'll be using though for our two projects will be brown, black. We will use a little bit of white, and orange and blue. Okay, then you have some fluorescent colors, you've got some metallic colors, you have color sticks here, which is basically the same pigment that's inside the pencils, but just there's no wood case around it. These ones were used for the raccoon in the written lesson, but not in the video lesson. You have a lot more time at home to practice. I'm very limited on time on video, but I do give some tips and exercises while doing the drawing of what you can do on your own time. There's a blending stump, a kneadable eraser, a pencil sharpener, and a sanding block. Okay, and I'm going to show you how these pieces work. So I'm going to bring you now the set that I use. It's a little bit messier. Alrighty, so we have this here, and I've got a pad of drawing paper. So when you get your drawing paper, I see so many beginner students just start drawing right away in the drawing paper. You can't do that. Because of the pressure required with pencils, whether you're using colored pencil, graphite pencils, charcoal, watercolor pencils, any type of pencil style, if you put too much pressure on the pad, you're actually going to transfer your strokes to the next page. For that reason, I suggest you take your sheet of paper out of the pad, okay, or put a piece of masonite underneath your drawing paper to separate the top sheet from the bottom sheet. Okay, so let's demonstrate first how to sharpen a pencil. Believe it or not, that's probably one of the most important things that you need to know how to do, is to sharpen your pencil. Sounds basic, doesn't it? So we're going to get our pencil sharpener. And of course I don't have a dull pencil, so we will let's pick the gold one. And we'll need our sanding block. The sanding block is just fine sandpaper, and under no circumstances should you use an electric or battery powered pencil sharpener to sharpen colored pencil. The colored pencils are pigment, which is color, and the binder, the glue that holds everything together, is wax. So that not only will damage your pencil sharpener, but you won't be able to sharpen your graphite pencils because you're going to get all the waxy stuff built up on it. Although it sounds tedious, it's so much easier to use a hand sharpener. So you just sharpen it up, and then you'll start seeing your point. Do this very slowly, and of course this turned out the way it should have. If you find as you're drawing, let's say you put a little bit too much pressure and you snap the tip, that happens a lot. You don't really need to sharpen the whole thing again. You can take your sanding block and just rotate the pencil, and it will bring your pencil back to a fine point. Sanding block is a great tool. The other thing that the sanding block can be used for, now in my kit, the blending stump is dirty. I'll show you how to use this as well. Actually, I show you how to do this, use this in the actual drawing. You go back and forth, and that's what you use to clean. Now there's two types of blending tools like this. There's tortillons, which is spun paper, which looks like a little spiral, and then this is the pressed paper. I prefer this one because you can clean it. The tortillons, you really can't do this because once you get down too far, then the paper will unravel. There we go. And now it's nice and clean. So that takes care of that. Erasing. Do we all know how to use an eraser? Well, a regular vinyl eraser, just a regular eraser, yeah, we know how to erase. A kneadable eraser is an artist who does a lot of drawing and sketching, a tool that's very useful. When you get your kneadable eraser, it will usually come wrapped in plastic or cardboard, and it's in a square. You have to take it out and you have to massage it and knead it. And although this looks dirty, when you do this, the eraser just seems to envelop all the pigment. So you just knead it, knead it, knead it. And then what you can do is when you point it, massage it and point it to a shape, then you can use that, and on colored pencil that a very light tone has been put down, you can create some strokes like this or touch to lift off the top layer. When if you were to work on a project that's this heavy in pigment, the eraser will not work because everything has been burnished, and burnish means using pressure with a pencil or the blending stump to fuse the layers together. That's why I did this one here in the video to be this light, because I do demonstrate how to use the kneadable eraser for you, and then from there you can then add more colored pencil to make it darker. Okay, and just to demonstrate that, I'll use red. And the stroke that you need to master is what I call my airplane stroke. And I use that airplane stroke teaching, doesn't really matter what the medium is, whether it's paint, drawing, sketching, even pastel, is touch, push, lift. So remember that mantra, touch, push, lift. And picture an airplane coming down onto a runway and then having to take off again. So the airplane's coming down, and here's the runway. It's going to touch, it's going to push itself back off, and it's going to lift. And that's the stroke that we're going to do. So we're going to come down here and we're going to touch, touch, push, lift, touch, push, lift, touch, push, lift. Okay, and what that does, that lead is broken. I'm going to change to a blue pencil, which is a bit darker. As you touch, push, lift, what you're doing is you're creating the stroke, and I'm going to exaggerate the stroke. And that's basically what the stroke ends up looking like. A really long teardrop. Okay, so as you touch down, that's going to be where the pencil makes contact with the paper. That's going to be the fattest part of the stroke. Then as you touch down and then lift off, it's going to taper down to a fine point. Where would you use this stroke? In everything. The airplane stroke can be used for hair. You can also use it with very light pressure and going in opposite directions to actually add tone, let's say on a face, on a flat surface, to draw an apple, anything. In the art journal that I have with colored pencils, cherries and cardinal and all that stuff, is basically the airplane stroke covers everything off. Okay, so just touch, push, lift. Hatching is basically just straight strokes like this. Now I'm exaggerating this for video. Hatching is straight lines, but I do it with my airplane stroke, so it would be like this. Okay. Cross hatching is going in the opposite direction as well. You're going to make this, and the closer you make those strokes, the darker whatever you're drawing on it's going to be darker the closer the strokes are. Okay. When we work with fur and hair, we have to create the hatching strokes, my airplane stroke, to have a curve, and that's where this comes into play. So this is basically my airplane stroke, but then if you want to cross hatch it, you just create the strokes going in opposite directions. And you can see how dark it's getting at the base here. And being able to overlap fur like this is critical, or hair, especially in the workshop, the projects that we're going to be doing, because fur just doesn't grow like this. It kind of intermingles. Okay, and I'm going to get another pencil that's sharp. And with the fur, we're creating the individual strokes. The other thing that we're going to know is the scribble stroke, and to exaggerate that stroke, that's basically the scribble stroke. And the closer you make that stroke, the darker it's going to get. The other thing is a circle stroke. So when all you're doing is making miniature circles over and over, and you can see it's getting darker and darker and darker. This is what we're going to use for the eyes on both projects. When you create this, you can see that when you start drawing, you can see the speckling of the paper in there, and that's because paper is textured. And think of little, if this is the paper, and think of little hills and valleys here. So when you're drawing, you're basically covering the top of these peaks, and the white speckling of the paper is where the pigment isn't getting down there. When you use a sharp pencil or firmer pressure, you're starting to push the paper down more into the valleys. Okay? Then you can go the opposite direction and press even harder. And now you're flattening the paper even more. It gets to a point where you've put on so much pigment that the paper is, everything's been burnished together, flattened together, and it won't accept any more pigment. At that point, there's really nothing else you can do. So I suggest that we always start with a light stroke, and then build up the layers on top of that. That way, there's still room for correction. The minute you burnish something where all the layers are fused together, you can't do any correcting. I've even tried with an electric eraser, and it doesn't work. Okay, so the airplane stroke is what you need to master. Okay, one thing that we don't cover off in the video lesson, simply is because of time, but it is covered off in the written lesson, are the sticks. And all the sticks are is the colored pencil without wood. And these are great to use with more pressure. Okay. In the written lesson for the raccoon, I use the sticks, the brown. Let's see, got the brown and black sticks. Okay. With this one here was strictly colored pencil because it's all a matter of time. So when you start off with your stroke, so if we just quickly, and when you're drawing fur, stagger your strokes. Don't draw fur like this. Okay, because you've got something that's too hard here and too hard here. Start and stop the stroke at different lengths, so it looks more like natural fur. To darken that, you'd have to sharpen your pencil and then just use a bit more pressure. Okay, but if you take the stick is at an edge, and you can break the sticks to get even sharper edges, but you can also use the stick to create thicker strokes, especially if the fur is very thick, and in the raccoon on the bottom and on the outside edge is very thick. Now you see how fast this was, and but this is extremely hard to erase, so use this at the very end. Okay, but practice times 100 in your journal or in your sketchbook, because that way you'll get a feel for the material on the paper you're using, and then you can apply what you've learned to your drawing. There's nothing more frustrating than creating a drawing. You spent hours, and at the end try something new on the drawing, and then you end up ruining. So always practice in your journal first. Okay, and let me just put this way. With drawing, just one last thing to cover off with colored pencil. For burnishing, I'll use yellow and orange. No, I will use yellow and green because that's a really good example. And I'll use a different sheet of paper. Burnishing is fusing the layers of colored pencil together. So not only can you do it with colored pencil with pressure, you can do it with just a blending stump. You can also do it with just a white pencil. I'm going to show you both. So I'm going to create a long square. So I'm going to divide that into 3 and do this exercise in your journal or sketchbook, but just make sure you have something underneath because we have to use a lot of pressure with this. So I'm going to take my yellow and I'm just going to cover all the squares. And I'm using firm pressure, not hard pressure, firm pressure. And I started off with a sharpened pencil, and now once I finish this, it's going to need to be sharpened again. But this should give you enough. I'm going to take my graphite pencil and just, here, so there's our square. Okay. Now I'm going to take the green, and I'm going to take green, and I'm going to not green, blue. You want to know something? I believe I did that in the watercolor drawing kit as well. I picked up green. Blue. So I'm just going to add a little bit of blue to each square. And basic color theory, blue and yellow make green. Okay. I'm going to sharpen that yellow pencil again. Right now, well, you can see it is green, but actually, you know what I'll use? I'll use the fluorescent yellow. When you burnish, if we just go back with the yellow, and we take this now, and you use firm pressure, now we're burnishing with the pencil. We can crosshatch up and down, come back with the blue. Not as much pressure on the blue because the blue is much darker. And you could do the airplane stroke, scribble stroke, it doesn't matter. You want to practice the pressure in your journal. So this is adding multiple layers, and with each layer I'm using more and more pressure. Now on this side now I can go across, I can cross hatch it. And within each layer it's going to get darker and darker, and as well it becomes a little bit more difficult to add the pigment because the paper is getting so full. Okay, so that's burnishing with a pencil. Burnishing with a, it's going to add a bit more pigment here. Burnishing with a blending stump, you're not adding additional color, you're just using pressure to fuse everything together, and the blending stump actually distributes the pigment throughout the paper. Once you burnish, it's extremely difficult to add additional layers of color. You can see that there's a little bit of pigment still left in there. You can also burnish with white. So I'm going to add a bit more blue. Any lighter pencil you can burnish with, but I like if you have to use a pencil other than what you use, white is probably the best choice because it's the one that will least change the resulting color. Meaning if you used red on this, then you're going to get something completely different. I can add a little bit more blue to that. Add a little bit more yellow. And take your time while doing this so you don't get those lines. Then I can come back in with white now. going the opposite direction. And it fuses everything together. For this reason, the way that, and practice these three, the burnishing method I prefer is with the blending stump, although you do not have to burnish anything. And I like to, if there's a general rule, you can say burnish anything that looks shiny or has very little detail. But I suggest that you practice all those strokes in your art journal. So I think now, with all that information, we are ready to start working on the projects. We're going to start with Bonbon now, and the line drawing has been provided to you. And the information on how to transfer the line drawing is available in the written lesson. But basically, you take the line drawing and you trace it onto tracing paper, then place a sheet of graphite paper on top of your drawing paper, put your trace line drawing on top, then with a stylus or a pencil, just go over to transfer the lines. Think of graphite paper like carbon paper, but it's wax free. And just use enough pressure so you can see the lines. You want to barely be able to see the lines. Because if the lines are too dark, you're going to actually put gouges in the paper. And I have a piece of chipboard that I'm going to put underneath my drawing, because my table has some bumps on it from other art projects. And the pencils in the kit right here. To do this, I already framed it out. It's a miniature size, and I already framed it out. And we're going to be concentrating primarily on the red, orange, black, and blue pencils. Okay, so we're going to get started first of all with the black. Now the written lessons are laid out in a step-by-step process featuring one way, but when I do the video lessons, I freestyle it, because I also like to show different techniques and different things that you can do as we progress through the drawing. And as well, before I forget, don't forget to put a piece of paper underneath your hands so you don't transfer any oils to your drawing paper. And I'm going to tilt my paper just a little bit. And I'm just going to outline the eye. Don't forget to keep your pencil sharp at all times. Now you have more time at home than I do. I'm limited on time. So there's no reason for you to rush or to put so much pressure on the pencil thinking you're going to make things happen faster. It doesn't work that way. And where the eye is here, I'm going to kind of do my airplane stroke going the other way. If you touch push lift this way, it looks like that there's little hairs going into the eye. Okay, we're going to leave the highlight bright like that. It's a little too bright. We're going to leave it like that for now. And then here, same thing. We're going to outline the eye and color that in. The eye is so dark that you can do the whole thing. And then just some little lines like that, and it just looks like there's hair going in there. And now I'm going to go to that blue pencil. That's very sharp, because the eye is black, but I like using blue as well, or a black that looks a little bit blue. It just seems to add a little bit of a tint of color. And I'm going to, there we go, it feels better. That chipboard was a little bit soft. Primed masonite is actually what you should be using, or if you have a dedicated drawing table. And I'm going to go back with black again. So this is how we layer. Now I'm just using circle strokes. Primarily around the eye. There we go. All right. Now we're going to take our brown pencil and we're going to utilize the color of the paper to help with highlights. So all we're going to do with the brown pencil is that we can start where the graphite lines are. We just do touch, push, lift, touch, push, lift, touch, push, lift. I'm going to go right over the eye, like so. We're going to lay the color down with brown. And then when you make your stroke this way, touch, push, lift, where you touch is going to be darker, where you lift off it's going to be lighter. I need to do the same thing this way because there's hairs coming out here. We want to make it look like the hair is actually coming into this dark section. So we just do it backwards. And now it looks like there's hairs, light hair here. So everywhere where there's graphite lines, just kind of do a few of these airplane strokes. And tilt your paper, turn, tilt your paper. The more layers that you do, the more realistic your piece will look. And now we'll go back in with the black. You're just going to do little circle strokes around the nose. Don't forget to keep your pencil sharp at all times. Now to save time, I'm going to sharpen my pencil off camera. I have some pencils already sharpened so I don't waste video time sharpening a pencil. Inside the nose, I'm going to do that circle with blue, just so I can make sure that I don't lose the circle of his nostril. Okay. And we'll take the black and we'll just lightly go over that. That's the highlight. And we're just going to make that little line in there. Okay. And now I'm going to go across. So we're doing the strokes in all different directions, which will fill all the pores of the paper. Just make sure you don't lose that line. All right, he looks funny, doesn't he? And then his mouth, we're just gonna draw it in like so. Okay, and then we're gonna build up. As soon as we start building it up, it's gonna start to all fit in. Now we do the rest of the work all with the brown pencil. So we started off here. So you've got the strokes. So we're gonna basically fill in all the dark areas. And use the picture of the finished piece as reference. So don't forget, when you start the airplane stroke, when you do touch, push, lift, wherever you touch, it's going to be darker. And when you lift off, it's going to be lighter. I just sharpened my pencil. Took a minute to do that. Now this area here, as well as here and here, see the areas are a little bit darker. We can't do that just with the brown pencil, so I'll just demonstrate that up here. So we've got the fur here, and the more brown that we add, it just looks more and more brown. Okay, we come in now with black. Don't do too much of this. Just add a few lines of black. Very, very sharp pencil. And look what happens. Starting to darken up. Now when you're working with this drawing set, it has a certain number of colors. As you gain more experience, you can move up to more colors. Okay, I'll tilt this around and rotate the photograph of the sample, finished sample, so you can follow along with it. Rotate it so everything matches. With pet portraits, this is one of my specialties, you can, whatever you learn in this colored pencil workshop, you can apply it to graphite pencils as well, and vice versa. It's all about the stroke and pressure. You'll notice that I'm moving around. I'm not concentrating only on one section, and that's basically just to give my hand a break and just to change things up. Keep the pressure light on the pencil, and if you find that your hands are getting tired, you need to stop, because after a while, if you are tired and you keep drawing, you're going to start putting pressure on the pencil and you won't even know it. So I'm going to bring this out just a little bit further. And right here it's nice and dark. But don't forget, you want to utilize the white of the paper, so where the areas are lighter, keep the strokes a little bit further apart. See what I'm doing here? Keep them further apart, that way we can use the paper for the highlight. And let's do the nose here. Feel free as well to experiment with strokes and practice in your art journal or sketchbook. Just put a piece of hard cardboard, chipboard, or even masonite under your sheet so you don't transfer your lines. Like if you press a little bit heavy, you don't transfer it to the next page. So here's a little bit darker here. Now I'm allowing, for the frame that I had this in, it was 3/4 of an inch. So in frame, this was right about here, whereas it was framed. So if you know the frame this is going to go in, just measure the framing part out, so you make sure that you have your colored pencil going past that, so when you frame it, you don't see any lines. So I'm just going to come in here, and this is just more to frame the corner. I'm using very light pressure for this. The hairs here are extremely long, so although the hairs flow this way, just do a couple with a little bit of more of a curve. It just shows that the hair is flowing. Very light. Keep rotating your reference material. Okay. And let's just... Now this is all very light here. We're going to fill it in with a little bit. I'm going to sharpen my pencil. Sharp pencil, you get your strokes are so much nicer. Now in here I'm just going to use very, very light pressure. This is for the lightest part of the fur. Just a few strokes. It's very dark right here. I'm going to darken this up just a little bit more. Okay. And in here, a little bit of black in here. And I'm just going to go to the nose, add another layer. So I like to move around, that way you can see the whole piece being done in a consistent fashion. Okay, the nose looks really funny right now, but we're going to fix all that. I just don't want to overdo it right now. And we're going to keep going. And where the light fur is, just very light pressure. There's dark fur here. I'm going to bring in with the black as well. A little bit of black here, and a little bit of black here. Don't forget to scatter your stroke so it doesn't look like you've got a line. This is actually really good so you don't have a line going. Unless you've got a part where it is a line. Right here where the hair is coming out here, it's all trimmed hair, so it is going to be a line of dark here. But this here is where the fur color changes. This is because this hair is actually cut and trimmed and just overlaps. And in here, pet portraits of whether it's people, pets, or wildlife, they do take time, and you do have to, you know, depending on your style, your drawing style, or if you're a painter or just learning drawing or sketching for the first time, depending on your style, whether you're into realism or depending on your style. When it comes to pet portraits and people portraits, you've got to take your time to make sure you've got the critical key points done, and that's the eyes. You can have perfect fur technique, but if the eyes are wrong, then it won't look right. So all of this video, this section here is between 30 to 40 minutes. Take your time at home. The original one that I did took me an hour and a half because I was, when you're designing something, you have to, draw it, then draw it again with instructions and test the instructions and all that stuff. Just don't rush. You've got a lot more time than I do. And sharpen your pencil again. So the whole doggy is basically going to be put in with different values of this brown pencil. So light pressure will make the light areas, and a bit more pressure plus black will make the darker areas. Then we can also use the eraser to lift some sections out. And then all here, then the hair has to come out. This hair here is very, very long. Just keep the pressure light. Yeah, and mine's going to be cut right about to here. There we go. And right in here, it's very dark. in here. Now I'm going to go the opposite way with light pressure. I'm going to bring the hair right in to match this section here. I'm holding the pencil a bit more on its side to ensure that the strokes are very light, spaced apart, so it will look like a highlight. See, that naturally looks like a highlight. Same with here. And if you want to, if you like paintings with bold colors and bold styles, you can also then change up your colors in here. You can add more yellows, like the written lesson one added some yellow to the design. You can do that as well. This area here is extremely dark. So this is a great lesson on learning the airplane stroke, because the raccoon project is the exact same thing. You use a lot of the same stroke. Go. Let's see, so I'm going to take the black pencil now, and I'm going to go in the opposite direction where the light fur goes into the dark fur. Then go the other way, so it'll look like the light fur goes into the dark fur, and the dark fur now goes out into the light fur. Like so. And here's extremely dark as well. So you could also make the darks with the brown and, let's say, a red, or the browns and an orange if you want to change up the colors. Nothing wrong with that. Okay. And now I'm just going in now just with some pockets of dark. Always rotating the drawing. Okay, and I just want to make this a little bit darker. I may add a little bit of blue in here. Rotating. Some people feel more comfortable doing this way, like pushing the stroke away, or some people feel more comfortable pulling the strokes in towards you. I don't really have a preference. It takes, like, I know when I do this, I have a bit more pressure on my hand, but when I do this, I have no pressure on my hand, but I'm not fond of that stroke, depending on the piece. So just, I would say for you, just do whatever feels comfortable and natural. Okay, let's bring a little bit more dark here. And now see how I'm just making that ragged? Now it looks like this fur is going up into here. So we're going to do the same thing here now. And I check each stroke to make sure. See how it looks like the hair is going up? I need to bring it a little bit closer though, because the hair is actually trimmed right here. It actually goes down in here. See? And then it's long right here. I think Bon Bon might have had a bad grooming job. Okay. I'm going to go back with the brown now. I'm going to go the opposite way. Go. Add a bit more black in here. So all it is just a matter of just rotating and going around. And adding in the fur. With the brown and the black. Then every once in a while go back and do the nose. Sharpen your pencil, do the nose. There we go. So I'm just going to touch this up a little bit here. And I'm going to press very hard. I just sharpened my black pencil. I'm going to press very hard now, although this is a highlight area. It's just a highlight. And I'm doing cross hatching now, where the strokes are going across each other. Make sure you don't lose that line. Okay, I'm going to take the blue, whoops, not the brown, the blue, and go back over the nostrils. Now in the actual reference photograph, not the drawing, the actual reference photograph that I have, you can't even see the nose. I'm going to take some blue now, and I'm just going to go over the bit of blue. Okay, and over the eyes, I'm going to go back over with black. Much more pressure now. Sharp, sharp pencil. And you can take the blue and you can re-outline with the blue, and you can add a little bit of blue as well. I find the blue just gives a little bit of extra color in there. Now the highlights are way too large, so now this is where you can start making them a little bit smaller. Try not to make them too small, because with color pencil, erasing is much more difficult. There we go. Now we'll just repeat the exercise here as well. And go back over with a little bit of blue. And we'll just make the highlight a little bit smaller. There we go. See, it just brings them right to life. And at this point now, all you're doing is just touching up. This exercise is more of a practice for you to learn the airplane stroke. That's the most important stroke, especially if you're going to be drawing animals. You need to be able to master that stroke to get the realistic fur. I can even come with a little bit of blue and just add a little bit of blue in here, not too much. See, it just adds a little bit of something extra. A little bit of blue in here too. I like what that blue did. I'm going to make a few of these little strokes go the other way around. Make the fur look like it's overlapped. There we go. And then take the black pencil with good pressure. Not straight like that though. Make them curved. For his whiskers. And just finish doing the little bits of tweaking here and there. And then you can use your whatever color pencil you want, and you can actually sign it. I would suggest that you actually cut the piece out to frame it and then sign it, because if you sign it here and your frame actually covers it up, then it's a bit of a waste. I know exactly where mine. There we go. I cut it, I signed it, and it's good to go. And I'm just going to take the orange pencil, and I'm just going to add a little bit of orange where the areas are light. And this is just going to warm up the fur a little bit. You can use red if you want, but the orange is a little bit more subtle. Not too much. A little bit in here. Oh, right there's nice. There we are. So I think our little guy is good to go, ready for framing. And now what I'd like to do is, when this is ready, actually ready for framing, is you just frame it behind glass and you're good to go. Now I like to set up to create the drawing of the raccoon. So for the drawing of the raccoon, I sized this down a little bit smaller because the actual full-size drawing took about 4 hours to do, so I sized this down a little bit smaller. And again, the line drawing has been provided to you, so you just transfer it to your drawing paper. And just want to show you, so this is the one from the written lesson, and then I did a little one here. This is what I used when I was teaching a young person in one of my art classes. So there's a big difference in style. So it's a matter of just the amount of detail is customized to your painting style. For the pencils, the ones in the kit that are included, we're basically going to be able to use the black, brown, the blue, orange, red, and white. And the white is just going to be for burnishing, which is pressing 2 layers of color together to fuse them. And as usual, we're going to start off with the black, and we're going to outline everything. Now I changed the once I did transfer the line drawing, I used my graphite pencil and I added a little bit of strokes here to the eyes just to change the emotion in the eyes, to make him look a little bit more confused. So that's something that you can do as well. And I'm just going to move this here so I can see. All right, so I'm just going to outline the eyes. As if I'm using so much pressure, I'm breaking the pencil. Okay. Now the pupil is different from Bonbon, where we colored the whole thing black. We're going to color in only the pupil, but you're going to leave a little bit of a circle for a highlight, like so. So you draw the pupil, and you leave a little circle. My circle is not big enough. There we go. Okay. I'm going to go in with white to lighten that spot up. There we go. Color that in. He's going to look a little bit confused. And we can also, as well, take a kneaded eraser and just touch in the eye to lift the highlight back out. Now, a color pencil is much more difficult, so because the area is so small, I'm going to have to go back in and touch up a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to come in here. There we go. Okay, and then we're going to color in the iris with orange. We need to make a reddish brown. Then we're going to take the brown and go right back over. And I'm just coloring that in. Opposite directions just to make it just slightly darker. And when you're creating your layers, I'll see if I can replicate this. You will start seeing a shine, and that's because as you're pressing, you're burnishing, you're buffing the layers together. And when you're making something that is shiny, looks shiny, it even looks more realistic. Okay. And I'm going to take the blue pencil now and just outline again. Blue and orange are opposite on the color wheel, so they're when they're beside each other on a piece of artwork, it looks really nice. There we go. And let's get the nose out of the way. And we're going to take black for the nose. Same technique as when we did Bonbon. I'm going to use the blue for inside the nostril. And this is only so we don't lose it, because the nostril is the darkest part. This is just so we don't lose it. I always put a line in where the nose is. And now as you see how the speckling of the paper showing through, this is because the pencil is dulling out. What's happening is basically the pencil is only covering the peaks in the paper and not getting into the actual little grooves or the pores of the paper. Okay. There we go. And the mouth. So the mouth, you can basically make it with just a line, then a little lump on the bottom, and the bigger you make that lump, the happier he looks. And you can also bring this out a little bit to make it look like he's smiling. Okay. All right. And we're going to work the ears now. So you're going to use the combination of, you're going to use the brown and the orange for the hair. So for the really light brown parts, you can start with a little bit of orange and then go in with brown. Okay, so that'll make the more red-orange parts. Then the dark browns is just with brown by itself, and then the really, really dark brown areas add some black. So you're going to be doing basically the entire raccoon with the airplane stroke. So I sharpen my pencil. The black one, so just adding that in. Okay. Touch, push, lift, touch, push, lift. Mastering this airplane stroke, you can apply it to basically watercolor pencils, graphite pencils, and pastel pencils, all that stuff. You can also apply it to a subject, so it'll be, although we're drawing wildlife right now, you can, as we saw with Bonbon, you can do pet portrait, but this stroke, you can also use that stroke to create gradations of skin tone if you want to do a portrait of a person. And I'm going to go with the brown now, very light. I'm going to utilize the white of the paper for highlights. overlap the colors. So dark brown is made with brown and black, the regular browns with just the brown pencil, and then the reddish brown areas the golden brown areas with orange and brown. We may not need the red. Okay. I'm just going to turn my piece around here. So if you cut the raccoon in half, it's the exact same on both sides. You've got a lot more time than I do, so take your time. And although this area is very dark, I'm still going to put the brown in. And then I'm going to add the black. The more layers you put in, the better. And a little bit more pressure to make the black really strong. Try to leave the hard pressure parts until the end. Okay. And now we're going to take the brown. And I'm going to see just lightly touch over the graphite here. There we go. Okay, freshly sharpened pencil. Now I'm going to create this piece. This one here, we did a lot of burnishing in this one to really get the colors intense, and in the written lesson use the sticks. This one here, I'm going to make the lines a little bit lighter. So that way you can see the difference when you use different pressure points with the pencil. And when making my strokes, I'm staggering the lines so they're going up and down, but you can still see a little bit of the graphite in there. So I'm just going to go the opposite direction, wipe out that graphite. See, when you're staggering the lines, it looks more like fur instead of, see here, you've got that line here. Okay, that's natural because that's what is supposed to be on the raccoon, because this hair is on top of this hair, and this is the start of the ear, so it's supposed to be black. You don't want the edge of fur to look like this unless it's supposed to look like that. And I forgot, I'm going to put a little bit of orange in here. His fur is a little bit more golden brown. Not too much, just a little. And where's my brown pencil? Now here is very, very light, so I'm just going to lighten the pressure a lot. And the hair, like with Bonbon, it goes around like this. The face, basically everything, the nose, it goes this way, this way, this way, this way, this way. So other than the face here, you can do the entire drawing with this stroke. This is all black in here, but I'm going to still lay in this brown. When I work with sketching the graphite pencils, I will usually do an entire layer of the fur just using one pencil, which establishes a ground, and that's what I'm doing. I'm just establishing, think of like I'm painting the fur that's underneath. And right here, I might get this one started too. This is straight up. It goes like this, and then it comes around. Still keeping it very light. Keeping it very light because the light areas can be left just with this color. Everything is a golden brown, other than the nose, which is this nose area, which is white. We're going to utilize the white of the paper for that. Okay, and let's get this under here started. If you find that your hand is getting tired with a particular stroke, just move on to a different area of the drawing, or put your pencil down and take a break. Like practice in your art journal, you know, just the eyes, then, you know, practice the ears. The entire drawing itself should take you a couple of hours. Just don't rush through it. I covered up the fur here a little bit. I wasn't paying attention. All right, and this is dark here. So I'm just gonna. So basically, outside this nose area, it's just the same stroke. This is all black, but I'm still going to put the fur in here. Just avoid this section here. And now the fur on this side, now you can just bring it further down. We can take the kneadable eraser and just erase this outside edge to make it look like a vignette, which is really nice how portraits are done. Keeping it light. This fur is a little bit longer. Okay, so although if you cut this in half, this side is the exact same as this side, try not to do just one half, then the other half. Try to do the whole thing at the same time. That way it's consistent with the way it looks. A lot of black in here. Now all these lines that I put here, I'm going to be erasing that. That's just basically a guide. And you just want to make sure you have the basic shape set out where everything comes around. Now we're going to go to the black pencil, and now we're going to draw in everywhere the fur is black. Now in the actual written lesson piece, the layers are fused together by burnishing. This one I'm not going to do it that way, just so you can see two different styles. Make sure you get right up to the eye to do that. This particular technique that I'm showing you with the much lighter pressure is commonly used if you were to, let's say, go to the zoo and draw an animal. You wouldn't have time to add, you know, 10, 15 layers onto your drawing while at the zoo. But by using light layers, you can still get the colors in there. And that's your study, and then you can, when you get home, then you can create a formal drawing with as much time as you need, and use the study as your reference piece. Okay. And don't forget to get right into the eye, the outside edge. And keep paper underneath your hands so that the oil doesn't transfer. I'm keeping it open so you can see the whole thing. I don't want to cover up any of the drawing. If you at home, you need to put paper underneath your hands. Okay. Now this black actually comes way out to here, so to do that we're going to just use long strokes. Keep the pressure uniform. Now I'm using the side of the pencil which has dulled down, which creates a nice even shading. That's actually not shading, the fur is dark. And then we're going to have to darken the fur here as well. We'll use brown for that. But in this design, nothing is darker than basically than black. So when you put in the brown, you'll have to use a consistent pressure to match the same. So with the pressure that I'm going to use, the brown will look something like this. Hey, if you want to really try some experimenting, you can take, I've been able to do it in my journal. Oh, that's the other thing I forgot. At the end of the video, there's going to be a link to my website at artplace.ca where you can get bonus material that's just for you as a thank you for watching the workshop. And you'll also find on my blog where I've show in an art journal preview where I've taken some water with colored pencil to dissolve it. Typically with colored pencil you can use like a turpentine substitute or mineral spirits to dissolve the colored pencil. With these ones I was able to use water. Okay. So you can see how long this will take, even though I've been doing this for a long time, it's still taking. If you rush through it, then your strokes are going to show and be very, very harsh, and it won't look natural. Okay, let's switch over to some brown now. And now we're going to fill in the rest of the body. And should be able to do everything except the nose area, everything with this pencil. Just watch the directions of your strokes. It's all about the fur. So here I was able to come in this way because I wanted it to fade to light for this light area. Now here I'm going to go the other way because I want the fur at the edge to feather out. And then let me just erase the graphite lines. You can also use a vinyl eraser. The vinyl erasers I find really handy because if you have an X-Acto knife, you can actually cut it so it's a sharp edge, and you can use that to wipe out a line. You know, colored pencil is a little bit more difficult to do erasing. So that's why you always start light, and then at the end, you can make it a little bit darker. There we go. And as soon as you add the brown in, it just pops. See? The written lesson one, this one that's got the heavy pigment, I use the color sticks for that as well. I'm just going to bring some brown in here. We're going to add another layer of black. The one thing with raccoon fur, the hairs are so dense. Unless you're extremely close up, you really don't see individual hairs. But by using the direction, or the way the direction of the fur goes, it gives you the impression of individual hairs. Okay, so this is a vignette where it's all faded out at the end. I need to really darken this part up a little bit more. Bringing the strokes down towards the nose. I'm rotating my pencil so I can get a sharp edge, especially when I do a lot of feathered out strokes. You can turn the pencil to get a sharp edge to save you from one sharpening. Let's see how I'm making the strokes staggered, and it looks like there's lighter fur in there. And I'm just going to now make a few little adjustments. The hair here, the black comes right out here. Okay. And I'm just going to tweak that a little bit here. See, the more layers you add, the darker it gets. And here there's a little bit of dark right in here, so I'm just going to add a little bit of black in here. And a little bit here. And it's black under here. I'm going to go back to the brown. Actually, I'm going to go back to the orange. Right up here, I'm going to add some orange. I need this fur to be more golden. Okay. Oh, I missed a whole section right here. I'm back with the brown. You see, when you overlay dark over light, it works out so much nicer. But if you lay down the brown first with a heavy application and try to add yellow on top of that, it'll be much more difficult. All right, Mr. Raccoon, this is all brown here. This is long individual strokes. Oh, I like that one there. I'm just changing the direction a little bit to make the hairs look like it's more feathered out. And just a few, I'm adding quite a bit of pressure. Okay, pencil is sharp. You see the difference when your pencil is sharp, the nice strokes that you can get? So overlapping this one, then going the opposite direction to blend where the stroke started into the black. I need to make this a lot darker. I'm going to put just a few hairs here. Don't rush through this again. I'm going to keep reminding you of that. Take your time. And I've got a lot of free projects on my website as well, so you can take a peek there and see if there's something there that you'd like to try. I'm going to come back in with the black. And I'm going to darken the area right around the eye. Go right in from the outside edge. Feather that out. Okay. The corners of the eyes are very, very dark. You can almost scribble that in. There we go. See how dark that is? And here we're just going to stagger the strokes because the nose wraps around. We just need to reshape it a little bit. Okay, something a little bit like that. And if you wanted to do yours very intense with colors, you would go between the brown and the black, probably 5 or 6 more layers. What we're going to do with the whiskers though, or not with the whiskers, with the white of the face, take your white pencil and just scribble in some white. Although you can't see it, it's going to help when we put in the other color just to keep it soft. And then we're going to go in with a little bit of black, and we can use the side of the pencil. And basically we're going to make it a little bit gray. Use very light pressure. I go back in with the white, and you're going to burnish it. The kit comes with a blending stump, which is this little white thing here, and that's for blending as well. You can take that. Just make sure it's clean, and you can use that to blend as well. Then you can use a sanding block. Oops. You can use a sanding block to clean it. Okay. Makes a bit of a mess, so don't do that over your artwork. But the eyes, if I come in here and press hard, look how dark that's getting. Because what this is doing is it's fusing the colored pencil into the paper. Only do this part here at the end, because once you do that, it's extremely difficult to add colored pencils on top, because all the pores of the paper have been filled in. Okay, I'm going to use the other side now. Burnish the eyes. I'm also going to do the nose. Right over the blue. I'm just going to use circles. Okay. Then I can use whatever is dirty color. Since this color is dirty, you can use that as well to your advantage. Just going to even out that line. And then come in with a little bit more black down here. Now this one here, I am going to I'm going to shape the face. Okay. I need to get a little bit closer here. This is all black as well. Okay. Especially here, there's such long, thick areas of fur along the side of the face. So remember, once you burnish, you can't go back. It'll be too difficult. You can try. And I'm going to take the brown. And I'm just going to color in here. This I can use a dull pencil because the fur here is extremely short. I'm just going to use the pencil dull just to do the outside fur area where it's very soft, because then I can erase it to soften it up. This is the area for the vignette. Vignettes don't have a formal hard edge. Everything is soft. And right about to here, we're just going to widen out his face a little bit. So right there. Just make sure you make your strokes a little bit more irregular. That way you can see a finer level of detail. See, I just changed the direction a little bit. Just adding a few strokes makes a big difference. And down here, it's all going down and around. Okay. So that's about it with this. Like I said, if you want to burnish it to a really, really dark area, just add a few more layers. If there's any areas that you want to make a little bit lighter, you can take your kneadable eraser, knead it up, and then just touch into an area, which will lighten it. This will only work though if you haven't done any burnishing. If you've done burnishing, it'll be much more difficult. I didn't do anything on the brown. And we're good here. So there we go. So it's just a matter of signing it. And then you trim it to the frame size, and then you're good to go. So I really hope that you enjoyed this workshop, and don't forget to visit my website at artplace.ca, where you can see a whole bunch of other tutorials, lessons, not just for colored pencil, but for watercolors, oils, acrylics. I do a ton of stuff with graphite pencils and a lot of art journaling. And as a reminder, as a thank you for watching this workshop, don't forget to go to the end of the video and you'll see a link where you can get bonus material that's just for you. So I hope that you enjoyed this workshop and that you'll join me again next time. Until then, stay inspired.